Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Laurie Davis, and you're listening to The Laurie Davis Show. And right now, we're streaming live on E360 TV. We're also streaming live on YouTube and also streaming live on the Facebook page, which is entitled Self Worth the Missing Link Superstars. So I have one of my superstars with me this afternoon. His name is Ramin Modiri. Welcome to the show, Ramin.
Oh, thank you so much for having me, Laurie. It's a pleasure.
Beautiful. Well, I have come to know Ramin quite well. He's been a client and a friend for the past, I don't know, 15, 16 months. And when you spend that kind of time with someone, you really get to know them even better. So it's been my honor and privilege to have Ramin as a client. And he has a very special set of skills, which we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about his immigration story, his passion for soccer, his vast and amazing financial background, upcoming projects. So stay tuned because we have lots and lots to share. So, Ramin, over to you. I'd love for us to get started by just sharing with our viewers what is it exactly that you do today? What are you involved in today? Over to you.
Thank you, Dr. Laurie. I really appreciate the opportunity. I am doing something. It's like a dream come true. Is doing projects for our youth. My passion has always been education. I was a portfolio manager for almost 34 years, and it was a fantastic journey. But it was time to move on and do something even bigger. And it's, at this stage of our lives, we want to really leave a legacy and make a difference. And that's what I decided. I do have a podcast and do educational trainings on finance and many other things. And right now, the project is on our teens, and we will talk more about that because they are
Mhm.
our future. And this is uh, the way we have to combat poverty is through building wealth, and the wealth is not just financially in many avenues. And we'll discuss that from mental and health and physical and all that. So, but that's what I'm doing, and we just launched. Well, we are just launching our website, free website for the teenagers. It's called RM Smart Teens, and I'm really excited about that. So, yes.
Wow, cool. All right. Well, you're here today, but it's been quite the journey to get you here. So let's just have a look at. Hi, Jennifer. Oh, we always put a plug in for our guests. So this is Jennifer Tim. And Jennifer is an international real estate consultant and client and friend of ours. So thank you, Jennifer, for being here. We always put a plug in for our guests, and there'll be more of them. They're coming in. And she says she can't wait to hear what Ramin is going to share because he is a wealth of knowledge. Yes, we both know that. Hey, Jennifer. All right. So this has been a long journey, though. So let's start, let's go back because you were and are, and presently, an American citizen, but you immigrated to America. So let's talk a little bit about your immigration story and the why and the how, because I believe that our stories inspire other people. As you know, some people think they can't do things until they hear somebody else share. So over to you, Ramin, for a bit about your immigration journey.
Certainly. Thanks. First of all, I was born in Tabriz, Iran, which is it's Azerbaijan, which is the northwestern part of Iran, and Azerbaijan. If people are James Bond fans, if they ever
Oh,
watched the "Word Is Not Enough," that's 1999, Pierce Bronson. Uh, it was part of Soviet Union, but actually that was part of the Iranian territory, and of course, the monarchs, the kings, they gave half of it away, and that's what I was born. And Azeri is it's the largest minority group in Iran, and that we have our own tradition. The language is completely different. It's almost like English and French. That's how different they are. So basically, when I was 4.5, we moved to capital city, and that's what we had to really master the language of Farsi or Persian, and that was the official language. And when I was a teenager, my third year of high school, the whole dream of every Iranian is to have better higher education. Although the secondary education is wonderful in my country, so the goal was to come to the United States and actually go to high school. It was a lot easier to go to university after that. So that's when I left Iran, and I hugged my mom. I'll never forget that at the airport. And the mothers have this sixth sense. And of course, as a teenager, you think why they're crying, they're hugging you. And I said, Mom, I will be here next year for summer. I'm just going for 1 year. I graduate, I come back. And she just hugged me, not knowing that I won't see her for another 10 years. And I came to this country, and basically, it was a wonderful timing. I had to have a guardian because I was a minor, and I had to go to she suggested I should go to a private Catholic school. And that's how my journey started. And second week as a senior in high school, I was told that I have to take SAT, which is the aptitude test. And I had no idea what it was. All I knew, there was this English test that I had no idea what to do with, except my grammar was good. The math was okay. I did pretty good in math. I think I finished in top 5 in the high school, even though I still couldn't understand the words. But that's the first thing that it came as a challenge, that I could not speak much English, and that's one thing that I learned. The, the beauty of being in the smaller school was the attention you get. There was only 2 foreign students out of, I think, maybe 1,000 or 1,200. It was me and a student from Vietnam. But one of the things I learned is, regardless of that, when we put so much emphasis on language, there are some common traits globally. And for me, there was 4 reasons or 4 things that really saved me, and it, even to this day, allowed me to actually not only survive but also progress. And the 4 things I learned from my childhood was, number one, smile. There's nothing wrong with smiling. And if you look at a 6-month-old, when they giggle, I don't care what culture you are, it just looking at those giggles, you just can't help smile yourself. So it doesn't have to be English or Turkish or French. And so that's one at school. That's why I always smiled at everyone. And that's how I made friends. The second language that I had learned was the language of sports. I loved soccer. And I was pretty good, especially coming to America, playing soccer at the level was not that high. And I made a lot of friends. And the third thing was music. I love music. My grandfather was a musician in the military. My dad started playing violin when he was 5, and he was a composer. And so the music was at our home. And the 4th things that I learned was, it was a common language, was math. We had a strong math background. So you can see with 4 things, I didn't need to know English. And so, although it was a challenge, I still had to communicate, but I made this social network around me that we had commonality. As a matter of fact, uh, I love dancing, and I went to my first party in high school, and none of the boys could dance. And this is Saturday night fever time. I wore my dad's white suit, and I was supposedly
Excuse me.
John Travolta, and it was
Oh,
so good. I was the only male dancing, and all these females wanted to dance. So this says the things that gives you the courage, gives you the confidence, thinking that I can make it. And the last thing is about English. My English I learned not from reading books or even talking to my friend. It was a 4-year-old neighbors we had. The 4-year-old girl, I would talk, and it would be basic but very simple, and that's how I learned actually the slangs, like hi, and I didn't know, or what's up. I mean, I had no idea what does what's
Mhm.
up mean, those little things. And and also I watched Mork and Mindy at that time, and I thought nano nano is in English, and I didn't realize, you know, he's an alien. He doesn't speak much English either. But anyway, so it's been a
Mhm.
wonderful journey. So that's how I
Mhm.
got introduced, came to this country. I will fast forward a little bit. My sister and my dad came, my 13-year-old sister, and um, because it was private school, we the political situation in Iran changed, and at that time the government said my sister could not go to a private school, so we had to move to a public school, and we moved to a public school. Things really changed. It's like 5,000 students, and my first day, Laurie, it was I went to the bathroom, and this big guy came in. He knew I'm a foreigner, and he took his gun out and he showed me his gun. But because I didn't know anything, it's ignorance, right? I thought, well, it's a toy, and I'm smiling at him, and I said, yeah, good. And he thought, oh, that's a sign of confidence. And then he introduced me to his friends that I think it was a gamut, that I'm okay. So sometimes
Oh.
ignorance is a bliss. So because
Mhm.
if we allow the fear, that's unfortunately it becomes poisonous. And so that was, again, we were lucky. In the meantime, while I'm in high school, we had a revolution in Iran, and the Shah of Iran was overthrown, and no contacts with my mom. And I'm here excited going to university, and my journey again, despite all the adversities, it has been a most blessed journey, and that's what I'm here because it meant to be here because all those little things. And I went to school as because my dad wanted to be a doctor. He couldn't, so of course he wanted me to be a doctor, a surgeon. And so that's why I went to school to become a surgeon. I went to pre-med, and unfortunately, what happened was because of the hostages were taken in my first year of college, and President Carter ordered all the Iranian students, there were hundred thousands of us, to report to immigration. And then they decided that I was accepted at school in Champaign, Illinois, ended up in Connecticut because I didn't go to Champaign, Illinois high school. I ended up uh, being on the list of being deported. They gave me 6 months, and unfortunately, I had two friends that they thought they can go back, and they were deported, and they the parents never saw them again. I don't know what the government did. So I had no plan of going to Iran.
Mhm.
But unfortunately, that was the situation. But, I don't know whether you believe in God. There is a higher being, there's a universe watches over you. And the judge that decided my immigration, this was in Hartford, Connecticut, he had um, his background was he was a Filipino, and he heard my story. I was a good student, and he heard my story, and he thought, you know, eh, I shouldn't go back home, and he had no reason for that, and but he did, and we had no money, by the way. All the assets are frozen. I needed to pay for my school, and basically said, you know what? Um, Rather than sending you back, I think we love to. I will allow you to work, which is very difficult. You have to have a green card to work and
Mhm.
work
Mhm.
authorization because he knew I have to survive. And the reason I say all this is, again, it's our attitude, right? So what we look at, I could have sat down and, okay, I have no contact with my mom. Our country is overthrown. We have no money. But on the other hand, I had such a tremendous support. I mean, here I am in a foreign land in the state of Connecticut, which is, they call it, it's the Yankees. They don't have many foreigners. There were like maybe 12 Iranians in the whole state. And here they were supporting me. They were chanting that the girls are saying, "Well, we will marry you. We don't not going to let you go." And they had no reason, and that's the beauty of humanity. And I'm so blessed. I mean, whatever we're doing today is is a sequence of those events that there's so much we have to give. And also, they wrote my story in local papers. They said if there are 52 hostages, there are 100,000, and they use me as a sample. So to make it short, that's what I got work permit. I started working, and that was the best lessons of my life. I worked 5 jobs and almost 70 hours a week. I was committed uh, because I had to pay. We had to pay the bills. My sister was here, my dad. We had to pay, and that was the best. It was not those classroom hours, which I didn't spend much time. I didn't have time to go to classes. It was actually those working hours, and I did everything.
Living it, living it.
It was fantastic. I also played soccer. I was in the math team, president of math team. I was part of the student government, all that. I was slept 2 hours a day, 2 3 hours, but it was no, it was all the blessings. So
Cool.
anyway.
Well, look who we have visiting us. Jennifer's here, Jennifer Tim from Southern California. And we just had Sylvia Somerville pop in from Grimsby, Ontario, Canada, right next door to the frozen Niagara Falls. We talked about that yesterday.
Mhm.
And of course, Sylvia is accomplished author, illustrator, and publisher. She's got about 20 books under her belt. And she's coming to Alberta to do a writer's retreat for us. So glad to have you here, Sylvia. And if you're just joining us, also, Jennifer Tim from Southern California, international real estate consultant. If you're looking for a place to live anywhere in the world, you need to call Jennifer. Just saying. Okay. Thank you for joining us. I always plug everybody that comes in, whether they want me to or not. I don't care. It's just my deal. It's my show, and I can do whatever I want, right, Ramin?
Yes.
All right, well, let's talk a little bit about the soccer journey. I would love our listeners and viewers to know a little bit more about not just your own personal involvement in the game, but how it inspired you to move forward and do different things, because that was a big part and still is a big part of who you are. So over to you, Ramin, to talk about your passion, soccer.
Yes. I love to be um, yeah, sharing the stories. It's I started. I was the first child, so I spent a lot of time by myself. And I know inside the house we had these little plastic balls, and I would put a target, and I would just hit it all the time with that ball, and it just became natural. When we moved to capital city, I would be the youngest kid playing on the streets. I would be 6 or 7 playing with 15, 16-year-olds, and they always wanted to score goals, so they would be in goal, little goal. You had to defend that, and I always had bloody knees. But it was just the actual experience, and sports are just such a wonderful thing for lessons of life, and not just soccer. I was fortunate. I did feel I loved wrestling as well. My uncle was a wrestler, so I was brought up in that environment. But when I came to America, it's interesting. Again, you cannot get disappointed with the events happening in your life. When I played in high school, I was probably, according to the old, I was probably the best player. But our coach had no concept. He was a teacher. He didn't know what soccer was. So, I didn't even play in varsity team. They put me on the JV team, and I sat on the bench, played a little bit. And all the players are saying, "Why are we wasting?" Well, because there was no knowledge of soccer. And I did what I needed to do. I would practice. But wouldn't you know that there was one of the most successful soccer coaches in Connecticut. He saw me in one of the practices, and he actually introduced me to the university coaches. Here I am. I haven't even played varsity soccer, but this is the angel shows up, and so that's where my career in soccer in college started. But the irony is, about 5 years later, I ended up coaching this coach's two sons in high school.
Oh, wow.
And they became, one of them has the record for Boston University, one of the best goals. So here, things go around. And so, but soccer has played a big role in my life. And to
Mhm.
just make it a little short, our, when I graduated, as I mentioned, I went to medical school, becoming a doctor, but I just, that was not my passion. It wasn't my dad. So I love math, statistics. I became an actuary. I graduated from university and had so many job offers. This is during there was a recession going on and there were not many jobs, but I had a lot of job offers. Laurie, I thought that I will make real money. I don't have to work 5 jobs. That was the most boring thing in my life. I did not want to be sitting behind the computer doing nothing and study for exam because you have to take 5 exams for actuary, but I
Mhm.
passed
Mhm.
two. And then I loved being out there with the people, and that's when I started coaching soccer in high school. I was 22 years old, coaching soccer in high school, and one of the parents came to me and he said, Ramin, you're good with people. You could be very good in financial services. Why don't you try that? Never taken business course in college. Took one economic course, hated it. Never saw the teacher twice, the professor, and in the finals, and he introduced himself, welcoming me for the finals. But I didn't like it. But then that's how my life changed, and how the soccer played a role was this is mid 80s, and I used to have a team. We always did very well. We went to the finals, and every time we lost to this British group of soccer players. There were coaches here, they were ex-players, and they would beat us 8-0, 7-0 without even moving. They could have a beer in their hands and would beat us. And but we did this camaraderie, right? So one of them saw, he was from Liverpool. He said, Ramin, I just got married. I have some money. Can I give it to you? And I'm like, oh my God, I need clients, right? So he gave me a little bit of money. I invested in mutual funds and utilities and got very fortunate. It's the beginning of the bull market. We made 25.2% by end of the year. I was so cautious. I didn't know what the heck I was doing. And he thought I'm a genius. Here I am at 22, 23 years old. Now he's calling his friends, telling his friends, you got to meet Ramin. He's going to make you money. I had no idea. And that's the reason uh, ended up, it's just indirectly ended up working with soccer players. And I'm getting calls from London. They heard about me and I'm like, oh my God, this is awesome. And, but I had no really foundation. So that's when I decided I got to get as many degrees as possible, learn, and I had to convince my dad that I'm worthy because I never became the doctor that he wanted me to be. And but that was the most wonderful journey. And because I love traveling, or culturally coming internationally, I had to have a niche market, and that's where I emphasize on international investing, currencies, commodities, which matched my clients. And that's why I just kept getting degrees, just to prove to myself I'm okay. I can be an advisor. I can manage money. So, but that's how soccer ended up being the sole
Big
part,
part.
part of my life.
Big part.
Yeah.
Yeah. So why don't you share with us some of the designations that you hold, and that you've retired from some of them, but
Right.
so what are some things that you earned in terms of designations?
Well, I didn't know anything at that time. There were many really professionals in a sense. The biggest one when I started was it was called CFP, which is a Certified Financial Planner, and that allows you to manage all levels of financial side of things, whether it's tax planning, state planning, investment or insurance planning, retirement planning. So I got that, and I believe I was the youngest holder of that designation in the state of Connecticut. The average age was in the 50s, and I wanted to do it quickly, so I went and it wasn't an easy exam, but I was just hungry. I'm a good test taker, by the way. Not that I'm smart. It's just some people are good taking tests. So I did get that one, and I was very unique. So not many people had that designation. So immediately I was asked to do consulting work for big companies. And after that, I just continued. I got my master's in finance, got an MBA, became a chartered financial consultant. That's from American College in Brandmeier in Pennsylvania. It's a 2-year program. I did it in 3 months, and I think that was the fastest one done. So I just want to get the degrees. I just wanted to again prove to myself that I'm good enough. And I continued, with a few other degrees. I became licensed international financial analyst. And the last one I did, it was the most challenging. I've never really failed tests, and that was something called the CFA, which is a chartered financial analyst. And it's at 3 levels. The passing, it's what probably has the lowest passing rate of all the exams, including bar. And I had taken MCAT, so I was familiar with that. It was a very difficult exam, and I failed my second level 2, and that was like dark clouds over me. But that's how difficult it was. But anyway, it gave me more motivation. So I achieved that, and I became very much involved with the institute, and I was the chair of education vice president for them for 10 years. I was in charge of scholarships for all the universities. I was in charge of uh, they call them investment challenge. We will actually give real money to students, let them manage it, and then we'll have competition. It was a wonderful, wonderful journey. And so that's again, when I don't like to talk about designations, but when I talk to my students, when I go to universities, uh, that's the only time I talk about my degrees and designations, because these students want to know after they graduate what path to take. And when they see I have it, I've done it, it just brings that credibility. So they say, oh, Ramin, should I take CFA or should I take my MBA? Each one has its pros and cons. And when they hear that I've done both, they really respect that. And I've mentored, I don't know, probably close to 1,000 students from MIT to Berkeley to UCLA, USC, Chapman University, UCI, and quite a few of them have become hedge fund managers, portfolio managers, and that's the joy I get, and that's what I really feel valuable. Thinking that, well, I've had a little role in what they have done, and it goes back to soccer again. I started coaching at age 18 or 19, got my coaching license. So it could pay the bills as well too, because I became high school coach, and but I referee, making good money refereeing the games. So
Yeah.
and I coached and every level, and so you can see this common denominator with sports and soccer. It's played a big role
Yeah.
in my life.
Yeah. Well, there's lots of levels of application regardless of the area of discipline, right? So,
Yes.
you had a nice, unique connection there that you were able to do what you love, which was the soccer, and
Yes.
then create some skills to implement and integrate with the soccer. That's really rare. And I've had a similar experience in that I have the gift of hospitality and also the work that we do and the workshops and all. But when I had my facilities, I've always had a facility. I was able to combine those two things: the gift of hospitality, because I love to cook and serve people, and the work that we do. So, not very many people, Ramin, I don't think, have that pleasure of being able to take two distinct different things. In your case, sports and money. In my case, food and beverage and workshops. I mean, who does that, right? So that's really great. So let's talk a bit about. I met you about you know exactly the day I met you because you probably have it recorded somewhere.
Yeah.
And you stepped into some of our workshops, the first one being our retreat work. And I'm interested in we've had many conversations over the months, but now we're stepping into a collaboration. And I'd like to share that with our viewers because they don't really know anything about that yet. And as you were proceeding through doing your own personal work, I believe you made a connection between self worth and wealth. Would you like to talk a little bit about that? Because you have some really interesting viewpoints on people like, I don't want to steal your thunder here, earning the lottery and a year later they have no money. We're all very familiar with that. So over to you to elaborate on how you made that connection and how that has supported you in the last little while.
Yes, that's definitely a very worthwhile conversation because speaking of lottery, I've had three clients or clients to be that in state of Connecticut. They three of them won lottery, and not one of them, unfortunately, either lived to enjoy it or really stayed healthy with all the pressure. So it all goes back to the belief system they have about money. So as much of the education you give out, which is mechanical, I can tell them what to do. And the similar thing with my athletes, a lot of athletes and entertainers come to a large sum of money. Unfortunately, first of all, they have never had the education about money to know the value of it, but it's the psychological part of things. And I've traded professionally over 30 years, and and being a trader is a very lonely occupation in the sense that you're constantly challenging yourself. You're sitting against the markets. It's not like you're working for someone. So it has a lot to do is how you see yourself, how value yourself. And if you do not feel you're worthwhile, you don't deserve what the rewards that you're getting. So that's why that becomes that self-destruction. You see a lot of successful entertainers do stupid mistakes. A lot of wealthy and rich people lose their money. They go bankrupt. A lot of them end their lives basically because they have no hope and they have the wrong self-understanding. So it is absolutely necessity. Anyone who's getting to a world of finance or money to understand where they're coming from, understand where their background is and how much they need to work on themselves. I just give you a lot of stories. I mentioned about lottery. I met this trader in Chicago, magnificent. I mean, a lot smarter than me. He had turned $10,000 to $1.2 million in a matter of 10, 11 months and had lost it all back to zero. He did it three times and come to find out that his dad never thought he's gonna sum up to be anything. So he had this self-destruction about himself, and he was very successful in a way of actually made 1 million. Most people, they cannot even get to 100,000. They think that's their limit. Once I made 100,000, I'm not worth any more than that, and then they sabotage. So basically, going back to what makes you special, Dr. Laurie, is I've gone through. I had my company in 1990s. We went to Tony Robbins. I've gone to so many different these promotional motivational speakers, conventions, had therapists, all that. They do open the door for you. They tell you what it is, and then they need a repeat business. So you see the same faces come back year after year because they never had the fundamental answers that they needed to work on themselves. And as you know, as society puts their pressure on us, we put these masks on as from our youth because we have to please our parents, we have to please our friends, our family, then we have to please our society, community. So by the time you get older, now you need a therapist to peel those to get to your real you. And not many of them are very good at it. So, and that brings us to why we need to work with our youth is don't want to build those masks. So what you've done, you, it was not about you coming out and say, okay, this is ABC, and if you do this, this is like your medication, and it's like this is a pill you take, great. It's from inside out, and that's the important thing to find out who we really are and why all these issues are coming. And you make suggestions, but you leave it up to, let's say in my case, you left it up to me to come up with the answers. And if I'm proactive and if I come with the answers, that will stick. Reading a book is a good opening, but that's just the opening. Listening to an audio, that's an opening. Going to a convention, but what you do from inside out, that's what makes a difference. And as I said, when it comes to finances, that's the biggest problem we have is the belief system. Many people don't even understand what is money for, and and what is it a tool, and what do we do with that? Is it status? And that's what you need: a collaboration of money, understanding of mechanic side of things, but also the holistic and also self valuation. And again, it all goes back that I am worthy. Money is not bad. Money is actually makes you happy if it's done the right way. But you have to be happy with yourself to enjoy that. And that a couple of nights ago, I watched Elvis's movie, and with my children, and we, it's so sad. I do remember, one of the things like back home, people remember when uh, JFK was shot. That was an important one. They all remember that day. It was big again overseas. He was a big figure, and everybody remembers it. 1977. I remember when Elvis died, and
So
as a
do I.
little
Yeah.
Iranian, back home, we remember that. So it's just so sad. Such a brilliant and successful person. Why should he die at age 42? And it goes again. None of those issues that he had were resolved, and that's what this world needs. It's not just again, academic or mechanical understanding. It's a lot more than that, and it
Mhm.
goes to that self-esteem, self-worth, understanding who we are, and
Mhm.
valuing what we accomplished. So, yeah.
So, which leads me into our collaboration of creating a process that we want to break cycles because things get handed down. We are now in our fifth, here in Canada anyway, we are now in our fifth generation of welfare recipients. And we've talked about poverty and how that goes down the hill. So we want to break some of those cycles. And so when we talk about health and wealth for the next generation, that is about providing information and tools and techniques so that our next generation can break those cycles that are very destructive, very negative, very dark. And let's talk about that. What the passion that is within you for that project, and me also, because I've always been a voice for kids. I was a teacher for goodness sake, and that's why we choose those careers. So health and wealth for the next generation. So let's tell our listeners what we've come up with so far. Besides working on a book, which Sylvia Somerville will help us get out the door in short order, and I will be attending her retreat as a client, and we'll get that out the door. But then we've also collaborated and created something else. So over to you to talk about that, your passion for youth and breaking those cycles, and what we're going to do next.
Yes. No, it is. I mean, again, one of the things that it's important to understand is you just mentioned about 5 generation. If you go 15 generations, that takes about 400 to 450 years. And everything that we do every generation, we actually, because of the evolution, whether we are perfecting ourselves. Each generation is better than the previous one, at least from the cells and chromosomes. And when you look at just past 100 years, how much technological development has been. I mean, when you think about comparing 400 years ago to now, we are amazing. So the new generation has all the qualities, and I know our parents always want the best for us. If my dad wanted to me be a doctor, although it was for his reason, but he wanted me to have the opportunity. So that's all they know. They want, every generation wants the new generation to become better. The problem is our society, is our environment. I grew up, I was, my young years, I was in Middle East, and a country like Lebanon in 1970s was the Beirut was the Paris of Asia. It's a beautiful place. And you look back now, what has happened? It's just because of the power hungry control system. And it breaks my heart when I see these youngsters, the teenagers in Palestine and in Lebanon, throwing rocks at the soldiers, the Israeli soldiers, whoever they are. It's If these kids had a purpose in their lives, if they would not have, if they had going to education, if they had economic stability, or at least have a job, they would not have time to throw rocks. The same thing with our gang members. When we look at the poverty, it's all about belonging. It's all about having that safety net, and they don't have it. And that's, again, this the society. So you look at the indigenous people, not only just in the United States or Canada. We think about our local nations, nationals from in Latin America, is that self-value has gone out, and that self-worth is not there to feel that we deserve it. And that's what happens in a lot of emerging and developing countries. Some, through the history, again, for generation, they've been controlled, and that's all they know. So we have to break that cycle. And the way we do it, we have to, first of all, before they, again, bring those masks and the layers on their face, let them know how valuable they are. They are worthy. God has, if you believe in God or universe, does not make mistakes. They are all unbelievable. They are miracles. They have to know they are. There's a reason they are on this earth. It's not just a piece of physical thing. And once do that, and again, the job that I like to do is through education of it, is the financial understanding of things. So they learn it from the fundamental reasons why things happen, and that gives them confidence, so they don't have to wait till to be age 70 or 80 to someday retire, get some money, and then they can go fishing. There is no reason to wait that long if they can feel good about themselves, knowing that they are worthy and they can be financially independent when they're in their 20s. Why not? They're in their 30s. It is possible. And that's why it is so important to break that, again, that cycle, to, again, one person at a time and one community at a time. And once it happens, it becomes contagious. And I think that's by thinking wealth, thinking mindset of being wealthy, that's how we combat poverty. Because the poverty is not just about money. And a lot of
Mhm.
successful people who are very poor in head, and they make stupid mistakes. But it's the totality of things.
Absolutely. So, to my viewers, I would just like to welcome Joan Wicklund to the show.
Dr.
Hi,
Joe?
Joan. And Joan is someone who has worked really relentlessly this past year to change some things in her world, health wise, wealth wise. And Joan has a book on Amazon, um, Run for Freedom. And what an incredible story she has to share as well. And our good friend, Catherine Oro from Inland Empire. And thank you, Catherine, for being here today. We miss you and we love you. And of course, Virginia Clark is here today too. Virginia needs to put a comment up so I can flash it across the screen. So we've got lots of supporters here today, Ramin.
So
Is amazing. Yes, because we're on a mission, and we have put a team together, and we're continuing to build that team. We have some pretty incredible people on that team who believe and trust and know that we're on the right path. And this won't take years and years. This is a very, very fast moving engine that we're building. So be ready, get ready. Let's talk a little bit about 100 Shades of Prosperity. So, as Ramin and I were talking, we were talking about I have all the goods for the self worth side of things, and Ramin has all the goods for the financial side of things. And together we have all the goods for a healthy side of things. So, we thought, okay, why don't we put together 100 workshops? 100 Shades of Prosperity. And I might mention that Jennifer, who's here, and Joan, who's here, and Virginia, they're all part of a group that I've worked with for over the last year, 100 Shades of Entrepreneurship. And happy and bragging I am because today they finished workshop number 96 out of 100 workshops. So you know this group is committed. We don't believe in messing around. We get our own work done first, then we have the credibility to help other people with their work. So I donated 50 workshops. Ramin donated 50 workshops. So over to you, Ramin, to talk about 100 Shades of Prosperity so that we can show people what is possible. Over to you.
yes, absolutely. So the idea is sometimes we think it's things have to be uh, from the quantitative side, having like time. We go 4 years of college, and if you talk to anyone who went to 4 years or 6 years of college, they don't remember 95% of things, at least. I mean, probably even more, because we are robotic, we are mechanical. When we are learning, and a lot of my students would come, do the portfolio management. I was fortunate, I had some really good students, but a lot of students, they just want to get the grade because that was part of the curriculum. So there was no really active learning going on. And that's one problem with our education system. What we are trying to do with this 100 workshops is really is a proactive learning system. And the way we are going to do it, we will alternate. I will talk more on the mechanical and quantitative side. We will look at what is investments, what is money, what is capital, how to invest in commodities or stocks. We go through in depth on every aspect of investing, financial planning, budgeting. So we give them the tools, but we actually demand action too. We don't, it's not going to be just a tape recorder and, parrot. And that's where you come in and you become that tool of how to apply from mental and from the heart. So now we are combining the totality of things. So if I'm learning about this subject, now I'm proactive. I'm applying what I learned. And again, once I understand who I am, I can appreciate the things that I can do and what I could accomplish and what a vast road is ahead of me. And the last thing I would say is by doing this, we creating inspiration. So they become the teachers of futures. They can go and take the message and spread in a way of, again, in a proactive way. So basically, that's how it will work. And again, it will be more of a holistic and quantitative, so it's qualitative and quantitative side. So
Totally.
I'm very excited about it. So definitely gonna be
Yes.
a difference, big difference.
Well, the other thing is when Ramin found out that I had 40 workshops that I had created called Money Matters, we thought I came from, like you say, that holistic side and helping people overcome negative beliefs that they hold about money and what kind of money education have we actually had and what we've had, we could all put in a thimble. Um, so it was just a synchronistic opportunity for you and I to collaborate. And I'm really excited about the project because there are many potential clients, people who I've said, if I could buy a piece of land for X amount of dollars today, and I could a year from now have quadrupled it, or would I find the money to buy that piece of land today? Definitely. So I'm quite confident that our clients will come with us in the beginning and will be wealthier a year from now than they are today. I think we can pretty much guarantee that because you have 38 years of experience in your area. I have 38. We added that up one night and we said, that's 76 years of experience between two people that could move people in all aspects of their life, including health and wealth. Am I right about that?
Absolutely. Now,
That's
one
our,
more thing
that's
is
our,
also, again, as I mentioned, I'm doing a website for the teens, but that again, that sports plays such a big role. We will have, again, some of my soccer coaches, they will be involved
yeah,
bringing the sports mentality, the decision making. What is a professional player once gets on the field? But the things that, and I think especially our youth appreciate that they get connected with that idea. And I mean, it is such a again, great life lessons coming from the sports, not just soccer. I mean, any sports, basketball, especially team sports, and resiliency, and not giving up. These are all important factors of life. So we will use those tools as well in our journey. So
absolutely.
future, yeah.
All right. Well, we're getting down to closing time. I
Okay.
know. Is that not the fastest hour ever? I would like to put you in a place where you're on a stage, or and that's the other thing, we work in, we're using our educational model, small groups, so people get their questions answered, you get your own situations addressed. It's going to be an amazing service that we're providing. So if we had a whole group of youth in front of us, and we each had an opportunity to share something very inspirational, let's say within a minute or two, what are some words of encouragement you would give those young people?
Number one, as I mentioned, I mean, each one of you are special, and I mean it. I mean, the children are such a great barometer of sincerity. They do understand it, and I truly, again, coaching over 40 years, you see that each one of them is just have so much to offer. And unfortunately, again, with the society putting us down in different ways or the challenges that they are, they have to believe that, and they also have to believe they can make the decision. They have to have the faith, and I emphasize a higher vision, higher faith. It doesn't have to be God or religion, but there is an order to our universe, and we have to believe in that. And they are going to make a difference. They have to believe they are put in this earth to make that difference. The question is in what avenue they're going to use it. Each one of us has that um, benefits, that advantage. We just have to find out. And once they find out, and it's very difficult for teens because so many things are changing, and there's so much pressure on putting this. But hopefully, this actually will help them to calm down, knowing that all this pressure they're putting on themselves, eventually, it will work it out. But they have to know their own value. They have to know who they are, and they are good. As much as things are bad out there, they have to believe they can do good. Not
Mhm.
because if somebody cheated or lied and got away with it, that's okay. No, it's not okay. Otherwise, our prisons will not be filled with guilty and not guilty. Unfortunately, that's the system. But anyway, somebody got caught. So you cannot believing in that, oh, if I do good, I will be ignored. But if I do bad, I get attention. So I can get away with it. So, but Each one of them is special. They have to
Oh,
believe that. They have to believe
and of course, that all begins that I don't feel special
that.
right
Yes,
away.
yes,
And some of the communities that I've worked in, they got home from the hospital and there was no food in the cupboard. Why would I feel special if I can't even be fed properly? It's very basic stuff that separates that ability to place value on ourselves, or we have a trauma, or we're being abused, or, and these are all the things that we've worked on over the past 30 years to
right.
help people to understand where that self-worth component went out the window. So I'm like you, I'd be saying, you guys have got this. Like, you're smart enough. And historically, the time is perfect because anybody who's done their history knows the story of the massacre at Wounded Knee, and it was predicted at that time that was the largest mass shooting in North America ever. 300 people were shot that day, and it was prophesied that it would take 7 generations for our young people to step up and actually heal the nations. And so, if you have a child right now between the ages of 18 and 35, they are in fact the seventh generation since Wounded Knee. And so I'm always happy to share that story, and Google Wounded Knee, and it's all there. So Ramin, it has been my distinct pleasure to have you on the show, and thank you for agreeing to be here. It's been amazing, our journey, and it's only just beginning,
Yes.
right? Thank you to all of our viewers today. I'm just going to put this up. Sylvia put something up here. Believe in the magic. You are unique. You can be success at whatever you want to do. Dream big, work hard, never give up, and listen to the advice all around you that's available. So, thank you so much, Ramin. We're going to wind down now, and I'd like to announce that tomorrow my special guest is Virginia Clark.
Yeah.
And Virginia and I are going to talk about addictions. And we have a product called HEAR, HEAR, Healthy Empowering Addictions Recovery. And Virginia will be sharing her own personal story and what we're doing with regards to that. So it's a one great big happy family right now, I would say, our brothers and our sisters that have all come to the table. So thanks again, Ramin. Bye to everyone.
Thank you so much.
And you bet. See you tomorrow.